lighter note. HBCU sports. It's coming down the stretch in football.
Yeah.
And,
Wait.
and, you know, one thing I'm learning, the SWAC is probably the most pettiest fan bases out there.
Lord Jesus.
I'm part of a Facebook group called SWAC Sports something. I'm about to pull it up right now. It is hilarious. It makes me laugh. I mean, it puts me in a good mood when I have a shitty day. SWAC Sports Central. Those guys and gals are so petty, especially FAMU fans. They're hilarious. If anything, having FAMU in the SWAC, it's hilarious. It's entertaining. It's petty, and it's just down. It's not nasty. It's just petty. The funny petty. So the way I know you have some news about upcoming games and the possibility of a SWAC team or two possibly qualifying for the FCS playoffs because they're doing so well. So I'll just let you bless us some knowledge, and we'll go and talk our shit along the way. So.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the beginning. Well, before we even get into football, hooray, college basketball season started yesterday. So
that's correct.
You know, there's a lot of basketball.
We love college basketball too.
Yeah, so what makes it even interesting that I bring that up, right? So everyone's talking about Duke and everyone's talking about the last ride, I guess, if you will, of Coach K and the fact that they went out there and they beat Kentucky last night.
They did.
But what people don't know is Miles College, Division II Miles College gave Kentucky a run a couple of days ago, losing by 9, 71-80.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they kept them, they played them tough the entire game. So I don't know if that's a barometer on how good Miles is or how early it is for Kentucky. Either way, I don't care.
Right.
A Division II HBCU from the SWAC played what do they call it? They're not Power 5 and a major
blue blood.
Yeah, blue blood.
A blue blood.
Yeah,
blue
blood.
Extremely well.
Yeah.
And only losing by 9. So big ups to them. But since it is football season and we're coming to the end of the football season, you know, it's 2 more weeks left. Well, God, technically about 4. Well, no, it's about 2 to 3, depending upon MEAC is last 2 weeks. Same thing for Big South. The SWAC, they have another game like around Thanksgiving as well. So, you know, there's a slightly extended and, of course, a championship game that first week in December. But the races for the respective conference championships are underway as well. Well, not underway, but we're starting to, the picture's getting clear right now. In the MEAC, whoever wins out between South Carolina State and Norfolk State, not oddly enough, but both teams end up having to play one another at the end of the season. So whoever ends up winning out will end up being the representative for the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl.
Correct.
What is oddly enough, and hopefully one day they end up getting rid of this. So Commissioner Stills, if you're listening, they need to go ahead and just do a championship game for football. They threatened to do it in the spring before everything broke apart and they only had 3 teams playing, which eventually ended up leading to 2 teams playing. But they talked about it in the spring, only to not do it in the fall. And a lot of people laughed at me when I said, hey, they should do a championship game this fall. Why? They only got 6 teams. You want to know why? I mean, yes, they have tiebreakers and rules to go ahead and clear it up the situation. But there is a chance for a 3-way tie out of 6 teams in the MEAC between South Carolina State, Norfolk State, and North Carolina Central. With North Carolina Central's big upset win last week of Norfolk State, that now gives Norfolk State an L. And if Norfolk State can beat South Carolina State, who is currently undefeated, that gives them an L, which gives all 3 of them a share of the title. But Norfolk State will be the team that moves on and advances to the Celebration Bowl. But Central gets to walk away and say that they are champion of the year. So, yeah, you got 3 champions in a 6-team league. Yeah, that's laughable.
The triumph.
But I digress.
Yeah.
And of course, the best way to solve that is to go ahead and have a championship game where you only have 1 true champion, and it is what it is. Moving on, as we're talking about champions and title hopes, as of right now, in the SWAC, Jackson State and Prairie View A&M, respectively, in the East and West divisions, are both undefeated in conference play. They control their own postseason fate.
They're both ranked
saying
too.
Destiny. What's that?
And they're both ranked too.
They're both ranked. Now, depending upon which ranking you like to use,
okay.
I like using the coaches, but they're both ranked in the FCS stats top 25, with Prairie View coming in at I think 24, and Jackson State at 16. Oh, no, 17. I'm sorry. So yeah, they're both ranked in the top 25 in the FCS stats. The thing is, though, of course, they both need to win out. Actually, no, Jackson State just needs to win this week, and they win the division for the first time since 2013. Prairie View, they have to win out, but it would be great if they can go ahead and win. God, if they win this game this weekend, they get that much closer, because sitting in wait is Alcorn State and Florida A&M in the Western Division and Eastern Division, respectively, that if they win out and can get a little help, they can end up winning the divisions. But with Florida A&M only having one loss, actually two losses throughout the entire year, one loss, it's one, just to Jackson State.
Yeah, the conference,
Yeah, that's the only loss that they have all year. They have an opportunity to be a 9-win team. The thing is, though, is that 9 wins enough for them to make it into the playoffs? There's been a lot of conversation about that throughout the entire year. It's starting to mount right now. Even Florida A&M's athletic director has even said that, they would love to be considered for the playoffs. The question is whether or not their resume is good enough to do so. I will be explaining in not HBCU, but I'll be explaining in herosports.com why it is or why it isn't good enough for them to make it into the playoffs. So look for that article within the near future, but they do still have an opportunity to participate in the championship game if things fall their way and Jackson State somehow falls apart in the next 2 weeks, which I doubt very seriously. So with that said, Division II championship week, Bowie State and Fayetteville State will be competing in the CIAA championship, like I said last week, for the third time in the past 3 seasons. Of course, 2020 season didn't happen. And in the SEAC, Albany State and Miles will be competing in that championship. Now, as it pertains to the Division II playoffs, Bowie State and Albany State should make the D2 playoffs. They have 4 regions, and they usually take the 8 teams in all 4 regions to advance to the playoffs. And they're most definitely in the top 4 of Region 2.
Okay.
Now, Savannah State, who is currently ranked 8th, and they're 9th. They're 8th. Savannah State is currently ranked 8th. Fayetteville is ranked 10th, I think. If they can get some help, Fayetteville State, if they can win, they can thrust themselves into playoff contention. And Savannah State will need some help from the teams that are above them to lose in order for them to move up and get into the playoffs. Now, the big news of the week.
Drum roll.
I swear. Yes, I wish I did have a drum roll. I mean, it's been talked about so far in SWAC circles, most definitely. But there's been rumors of TCU, who has an opening with them getting rid of Gary Patterson, or who's going to be their next coach. There have been rumors on whether or not Deion Sanders will be considered, and they ended up wanting to set up an interview with Coach Prime, and said interview actually happened on Monday. So as of right now, they're looking at Deion Sanders as being a strong possibility to replace Gary Patterson at TCU. Now, this is a quote from a source. Matter of fact, it says, Jackson State's head coach was interviewed with TCU on Monday, according to Fort Worth Star Telegram, and made a lasting impression with the organization. The Pro Football Hall of Famer and 2-time Super Bowl champion is expected to make the cut for a second interview.
Wow.
I'm not saying he's going to get the job. Not saying he's not the leading candidate at this point, said the source, but he is in the mix. He was impressive. Now, he has been out for the past 3 weeks dealing with a situation with his foot surgery and his health, where he had to sit out, get some rest, and he may have been on bed rest for a little bit there too. But it looks as though he's coming off of bed rest and could potentially be making a return soon to the sidelines. Now, Gary Harrell, who is the interim coach, let leak on Monday during the weekly press conference that he might be returning to the sidelines this Saturday. So there's a high possibility that is the case. When he said it, I was like, oops, I don't think he meant to say that, player. But because, of course, they talk, he's the head coach, he's the interim, and of course, they talk about game plan from week to week. Right. So I don't think Deion would be there in the head coaching capacity, but he probably will be there to observe the game. So I will not be surprised if it's announced that he's at the game on Saturday. But I'm happy for Coach Harrell, who used to be a head coach here in DC at Howard, who I felt as though didn't get a proper opportunity to bring in quality players, because as soon as he started to bring them in, they finally fired him from his position. But now he got dogs at Jackson State. The question will be, if Deion decides to leave and take the TCU job, if it's offered to him, will he become the interim head coach? And then will all of that talent that is currently at JSU stay there? Or will they follow him to TCU? Because my guess would be is that Shador, his son, the starting quarterback, who has played exceptionally well this season.
Yes, he has. And
in my eyes, is clearly a Deacon Jones candidate for player of Black College Football Player of the Year this year. He's most definitely going with that. He's not staying at JSU if Dad goes. Yeah. So, it's going to be very interesting to see and follow this saga as it continues to play out throughout the rest of the fall.
That's crazy.
We only got 2 more weeks left in regular season and then the championship game. And then, of course, the Celebration Bowl. I can only imagine the type of questions Coach Sanders will start to receive once he starts making himself available again to the media.
See, it's crazy to me because I heard that rumor. I didn't know because I always assume that, again, you do one thing when you assume, right?
Exactly, right.
But
I'm with you on that.
But I was always assumed that the only job he would leave Jackson State for would be to go home.
That's what I thought too.
To Florida State. Because eventually, I think Mike Norvell's going to get one more year, the coach of Florida State. I think he's going to get only one more year. And if they still stuck in the muck and mire, I think Deion has a clear path to Florida State. If he keeps putting in work, recruiting, and balling out at Jackson State. I think Florida State's been looking at him for the past year. How he recruited. Dude had the 55th highest recruiting class in the nation. Across all levels of Division I. The 55th highest. That's unheard of.
Right.
Let alone from an HBCU, from the SWAC, but still, 55th highest.
Highest, yeah.
He's bringing in dogs.
Honestly, I think it's a good move by Deion, even if he doesn't take the TCU gig. It gets him that next level of recognition. It gets him that interview experience.
Yes.
You get some feedback as to, look, don't take for granted that you're going to get the Florida State job just because you went to Florida State.
Right?
Gotcha. Come in and present yourself as not only am I Florida State's favorite son, but I'm a damn good coach. I'm a damn good recruiter, and I can put this program back to where it needs to be, not just because my name is Deion, but because here are my credentials and here's what I can do.
Right.
I'll say this, though, right? Because remember, he interviewed with Arkansas and with Florida State before taking the Jackson State job. The thing was, they said he interviewed well. especially with Arkansas. The thing was, he didn't have any coaching experience.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody in the ACC, especially in the SEC, that would hire a guy that had no collegiate experience whatsoever.
Correct.
Sure.
So they were probably like, okay, he's a great hire, but we just can't take the chance right now of having him come into this conference and not succeeding. Right. Now, you do have a point though there, Dre, that it would be wonderful for him to go ahead and interview for this job so he can get more interviewing experience. Because of course, like you said, the Florida State job is not a lock.
Right.
It's close to one, but it's not necessarily a lock. So of course, it would be great for him to go ahead and have that under that belt. But again, he's also lived in Texas, spent several years there, especially once he retired. That's where his sons went to high school. He has great reach there in the state. But yeah, I was like you, Scott. I didn't believe that he would even consider the TCU job because of Florida State. Mm-hmm. But we wrong, right?
Yeah, we wrong.
And now they're looking at him as, because I don't even know who else is a candidate in that coaching pool right now other than Deion, which is interesting. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and then how he plays out the remainder of the year, regardless if he leaves or not. It's the fact that people know that his foot is slowly creeping out of that door already.
Yeah.
It's not to say that we didn't think that it wouldn't be the case, because I sure did.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be like that after year, because legit, it's still year one.
It's still year one.
He coached. He started coaching in February, March of 2021. So yes, this is his second season, but this is still year one for him. Right. And I didn't expect it to be this quick.
But I think to Scott's point, man, the fact that you can get the 55th ranked recruiting class in the country to go to Jackson State, imagine what you could do at TCU. Imagine what you could do at Florida State. Like,
imagine what you do at Florida State.
That speaks volumes, even over coaching chops, right? Mm-hmm. Sure. I'm not gonna hire you if you have no coaching experience whatsoever. No, I'm not gonna hire you because I don't know if you can get people to come here.
Mm-hmm. You know what?
You can get the right offensive coordinator and the right defensive coordinator to do the coaching. I don't know if people are going to come follow you, Deion. Oh, really? Well, let me go down here to Jackson State, where historically speaking, nobody comes to from we're ranking recruiting classes type of situation. And I'm going to bring you damn near a top 50 class coming to an all-black school. Now what you got to say?
Yep. And that's exactly what happened. Because they interviewed him before, like I said before he took the job at Jackson. So he never really had an opportunity to prove himself in the recruiting ranks. And when he did so with a smash. And yeah, everybody took notice when he did that. So yeah, like you said, you start talking about the likes of a TCU and being able to keep Texas talent home, or if he goes back to Florida State and is capable of keeping Florida talent there. Or, there was also discussion about him at USC. So wherever and if he's capable of keeping that California talent there, Lord Jesus. So it's just a matter of time of when, but the question is going to be where and how soon. Right. So yeah, I'm intrigued, but yeah, this interview has just cranked it up a notch. And like you said, Scott, the pettiness in these smack talk groups. Oh, everyone else in the SWAC can't wait for Deion to leave Jackson State. I saw a post earlier today of God, what is the name of that podcast? There was a podcast, of course, that covers SWAC football. I want to say it's God, I don't want to say it wrong because I don't want to mess up the young man's the name of his podcast, but he legit played Please Don't Go while referencing individual JSU fans by name that are in these groups. It was hilarious. So he's like calling these people out and he's like, please don't go. Oh my God. I was in tears, in tears,
Mm.
listening to that podcast. I want to say it's the Offsides podcast,
Okay.
but yeah, let me see if I can find it. But yeah, they can't wait because of how mouthy. There it is, the Off Scripts. That's the name.
The
of
off script. Okay.
the Off Scripts
Off script.
podcast.
Okay, gotcha.
He was naming individuals by name in these smack talk groups that have been talking nothing but trash about Jackson State all season, and these SWAC fans are just waiting on the opportunity for Jackson State to return to being a 4-win team again.
Right.
If that ends up being the case, because success makes you mouthy, and I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
blame them. But yeah, just gotta be
Just ask
careful.
Browns fans.
Exactly, right? You know, oh my God,
Well-
what is the quote about the fall? Humbleness comes with the fall, something like that.
Something
What
like
is
that. I don't
Yeah.
know, but basically,
Oh,
they'll be the
pride
front runners.
goes
Pride
Pride.
comes before the fall.
Pride comes
Right.
before the
Yeah.
fall.
Right.
Pride comes before the fall, and yes, the pride is there, and they have a clear path. I don't necessarily see anyone in HBCU FCS football beating them right now. The only team that can beat them is them.
Mm.
So if they come out and they play a bad game, especially offensively, that's where I see them losing. But other than that, they have the chops to beat just about anybody on the FCS level.
Right. And that's the thing. So one more thing about Deion is we talked about him in Florida State, him having the interview, of course, with TCU. Given, again, I'm keeping my eye on Florida State. Again, for family reasons, I kept my eye on Florida State for years. So if Mike Norvell, again, if he doesn't get it together next season, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe if Deion is still at, I think he's going to stay at Jackson State. If he's still at Jackson State, I think Florida State's going to make a run at him.
Oh, most definitely.
I think they're going to make a run. I think they're going to make a huge run at him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're Deion, that's home.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's home calling for you.
You know what?
How can you turn that down?
You know what could be done, right? Because this is something that could be done.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a situation where if Deion, and God, I don't like to speculate like this. I really hate speculating like this, but I hang around so many conspiracy theorists, it rubs off. So if Deion gets word from Florida State that if things start to go wrong down in Tallahassee, that he's most definitely going to be interviewed, he's clearly going to stay at Jackson State.
Yes.
And he could go ahead and play that off of TCU, especially if TCU hires an interim head coach for the fall with the looks of testing him out to see if it works out, especially if it's someone that's currently on staff.
True.
You can go ahead and promote someone up to the interim. Well, especially if whoever's interim now finishes the season out well, and Deion's like, nah, maybe not this year, maybe next year, they go ahead and potentially keep that interim title on that coach for the next year, and that dude doesn't coach well, Deion will have his pick at that point between two institutions, his current home or his original home. And that way he can play them both. But yeah, right now, Jackson State fans, it's going to be rough for the next, until he leaves. Y'all better ride this out now, because when it's over, I don't know what's going to be like afterwards, dude. Yo.
Drake Vince Carter.
Yeah, because, I love Coach Harrell. God, I don't want to see him back in a situation where he doesn't have the capabilities of bringing in talent into a program and he has to struggle again. I don't want to see that of my homie, man. I haven't spoken to or been around a coach on the HBCU ranks that I don't like. I haven't, but Coach Harrell is in that group that I really like. Him, Rob Milstead of Delaware State, Tyrone Wheatley of Morgan State. I don't know what it is about these guys that have losing records that I like so much, but they just happen to have a propensity of wanting to make men of the guys that they bring into their program, and they're always programmed first. It's not to say that these other guys aren't, because they are, but it's something about those three guys I just named that are huge standouts, and there's no disrespect to any other coach, because Coach Sanders is the same way. He's most definitely the same way. But, you know, it's these other guys, man, they got to keep coaching through the losing and keep trying to convince their fan base that they're the best choice for this program. But and they're the best choice for the men that are there, but they just aren't winning on the field.
Yeah, it's well said. It's well said. This remains to be seen what happens with Deion going forward. This will be very interesting in SWAC land, especially down in Jackson, Mississippi. So this is going to be interesting. On that note, let's call it, man.
Keep watching the Petty in them groups.
Yes, that's when you mentioned Pettiness there.